Welcome to Downshift. My name is Matt. This is the newly updated 2023 Kia Telluride, and more specifically, this is the SX Prestige with the XPro package. And this is about the most money that you can spend on a Kia or a Telluride, or I think, yeah, any Kia in the lineup. So at about the mid $50,000 range, it's a lot of money. So is it still the pinnacle of the three-row family SUV? Today we're going to find out, hitting the highlights, the best and the rest, starting with the rest. The first thing we'll talk about is the fact that there's no hybrid. There's only one engine available, and it's been that way since the beginning in 2019. It's a 3.8 liter naturally aspirated V6. And it's a perfectly fine engine. It makes 291 horsepower and 262 pound-feet of torque and goes 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. However, it also is rated by the EPA to only get about 21 mpg combined, but I've been seeing closer to 23 or 24 with maybe a slight preference towards highway, which isn't awful, but it's certainly not the best in class. And that's because we're still using a fairly large V6, not a turbo 4-cylinder or a hybrid. Kia has said the platform that this Telluride is built on wasn't designed to accommodate electrification, but you can bet the next Telluride will be. But if you really want the most efficient three-row SUV from Kia, just wait a couple months for their incoming EV9. That thing looks super awesome, and I'm really excited to try it out. And the second thing that I want to talk about is the price. Now, like I said, this is essentially the most expensive Telluride you can get, and I think it's the most expensive Kia that you can buy, although maybe the EV6 GT is a little more. I've got all the luxuries and the features from the SX Prestige trim, plus the addition of the XPro off-road treatment, and you've got another $500 for this midnight lake blue paint, which is pretty awesome. And you've got another $300 for this really nice terracotta colored interior. So all in all, this thing comes to just over $55,000 as tested. And it's a lot of car, but that is a lot of money. But one saving grace, and this is very serious, is that these things hold their value really, really well for a unibody three-row SUV. So that's nice. Number 3, this is the XPro package, which means it's their more off-road oriented offering for the Telluride. And based on the look, it sure looks like it's the more off-road oriented one. However, when you really boil it down, it's more of an appearance package. There are a few things that you get that'll help the actual off-road performance though. You get a trim-specific 17-inch satin black finished wheel, and wrapped around it is a nice all-terrain tire. You get another 0.4 inches of clearance, but there isn't even an off-road mode on your drive selector, which just seems a bit strange. You can lock your torque split, but if you're looking for a more performance off-roader, then probably the Honda Pilot Trail Sport is going to be what you want. And number 4, this is kind of small, so maybe it's a little bit of a nitpick, but this is something I, and likely the buyer, is going to interact with every single time they get into the car. And it's the fact that despite the amazing suite of technology and features you get in this thing, you still have wired CarPlay and Android Auto. I would have thought for sure that we'd get wireless on this new Telluride, but anyway, like I said, there are a lot of great things going on here, so let's talk about those. Number 1 is the way that this thing looks. Now, this is the first time the Telluride's been updated since it debuted in 2019, and now it looks, well, it looks pretty similar, but that's a good thing. You get a new front fascia, you've got a new grille, running lights, which are full LED, although I kind of prefer the old ambers, and you get a new lower valence with fog lights. The profile looks largely the same. You get the same window fang, and this XPro and the SX Prestige gets the black chrome window treatments. And you still get the front door dent accent that I think is kind of funny. And like I mentioned before, you get new 18-inch satin black XPro wheels and a Continental all-terrain tire wrapped around it. Of course, like I mentioned, the XPro gets an extra 0.4 inches of clearance, but it still comes in at less clearance than a Subaru Ascent. And then around back, you've got new taillights and some updated badging. This isn't an entirely new generation of Telluride, so it's kind of a mid-cycle refresh, and I'm not expecting a huge evolution of the styling, but I think what they've done has modernified it, updated it in a tasteful and handsome way. So, I like it. Number 2, we're going to talk technology. This is one of the biggest places that they upgraded the Telluride for 2023. Now you can get a totally digital instrument cluster like you would in the Palisade, which means you get dual 12.3-inch screens here, the only ding being the wired Apple CarPlay that I mentioned earlier. But now you get a new digital rear view mirror, you've got a nice head-up display, you can use your phone as a key, and you can even text the key to somebody else's phone so they can get into your car. The wireless charger now charges twice as fast because it's added some cooling. Your 360 cameras are amazing and can do the kind of augmented reality spin thing that luxury brands like BMW, Audi, and Mercedes do. And you've got your usual Hyundai Kia staples like quiet mode, passenger talk, and of course the sounds of nature. And now you get the updated 2.0 HDAS system from Hyundai Kia, which is a fantastic autopilot or driver assist suite. Again, please pay attention. It's not going to drive for you, nothing drives for you, but it's a very, very good system here on this Telluride. And number 3, in addition to all the great technology stuff that you get in here, it's all wrapped in a really nice interior. You've got nice contrasting accents like fake wood, brushed silver plastic, etc. I mean, it's not Audi level, but it's a Kia and it's still really nice. You've got a great updated design with the dual massive screens. You've got a decent Harman Kardon sound system, but you also have some genuine luxury tier comforts like heated and cooled seats up front and heated and cooled seats in the second row. This and the Palisade are the only ones to do that. And of course you get a heated steering wheel, and it's all integrated into a nice tactile and familiar button system. Plus the seats are nice and comfy, they've got a nice quilting and design to them, it's embossed with XPro for this trim, and of course you've got the dual sunroof thing. Really, really nice interior. But number 4, I have to admit, one of the places that I'm most impressed with is the second row right here. Your second row gets cool features like sunshades. The back of the front seats have hangers, chargers, and a bunch of pockets integrated into them. And the rear seats themselves slide and recline. So you have so much room back here. Your second row is also heated and cooled for the seats, which is amazing and something you only see in the Palisade aside from this. And then if you want to get into the third row, you've got 2 buttons to get the second row out of the way, and it's really easy to get into the third row. And your second row also gets cool stuff like its individual climate zone, vents, and a really, really nice suede headliner. Impressive. And then number 5, we're going to talk about the muscle here, and specifically the towing capacity. The normal max towing capacity for a Telluride is 5,000 pounds. However, with the XPro package here, you get added cooling and a self-leveling rear suspension, so towing improves to 5,500 pounds. And 5,500 pounds is super impressive. That's more than my body-on-frame V6 4Runner that I had. Not bad. And number 6, then we're going to talk about what it's like behind the wheel of this thing. It's perfectly fine. It's not super impressive or special, but it's fine. It's good. It doesn't offer the same handling characteristics of a Honda Pilot with its special, all-wheel drive system and torque vectoring, but the V6 has plenty of power here. The visibility is very good. The suspension is soft and comfy. The steering is very, very light, especially in like an eco or comfort mode. And even on these all-terrain tires though, they're not howling away at me as I drive down the road. But then of course, depending on what drive mode you're in, the car's going to adjust whether it's sending power to the front or the back or both. So in something like a sport mode, you're getting power sent to the front and the rear to maximize traction and grip and all that sort of thing. But then when you dial it down into eco mode, it keeps things mostly at the front because you get some parasitic loss and some drivetrain loss, and it's just less efficient to power the back wheels. So it only does that kind of when it needs to in eco mode. I mean, at the end of the day, it's perfectly good. Anyone saying anything negative about the way that this thing drives, in my opinion, is kind of unnecessarily splitting hairs. And they're not really thinking about who's going to buy this and how it's going to be driven in the real world. If you want the enthusiast unibody 3-row, Honda Pilot or Acura MDX Type S if you can afford it. But if you just want something really comfortable, spacious, and perfectly good to drive down the road with a nice autopilot system, Kia Telluride's pretty good. Number 7, we'll talk cargo space. Now, in this trunk, with the third row up, you have more space back here than you would in a Palisade, and really anything else in the segment. The third row then drops manually, where it does that automatically in the Palisade, but you do have buttons to drop the second row from the trunk here, but they won't come back up. You've also got some underfloor storage here as well, and you have a power lift gate with the 2 buttons to adjust for how much you want it to open. This is still one of the most practical cargo areas for any 3-row family SUV. And number 8, we'll talk about the reason that you're buying this thing, and that's the third row here. And I'm happy to say, here in the third row, the Telluride, I could sit comfortably here at 6'1". It's a decent size. You could have the second row scoot up if you need more room, but you've got cup holders, vents, chargers, and some storage back here. The only thing that I could ding it on is the fact that the sister vehicle Palisade has now introduced the third row heated seat, but that's really the only one that's offering that, so it's hard to ding this thing there. Still a very practical, very usable third row, even for adults. But now it's time for the odds and ends and small things I noticed during my week with this Telluride. First thing I want to talk about is the key. Now it looks really cool. It's nice and sleek, it's modern, it's got kind of a aggressive, masculine feel to it, but it's freaking huge. It doesn't have Smart Park on it at all. All of the buttons are on the side, which I don't mind. And then your valet key is, well, I thought this was a USB at first, but this is your valet key. So it's just big, and I know you can use your phone as a key, but it's just big. The second thing is that these headrests, especially for the front, are super, super soft. It's not like a Mercedes, Maybach, Rolls-Royce like pillow headrest, but this is the next best thing. Another small thing is you do have, your touch keyless entry here on your front seat, but you don't have it on your back seat. This is pretty common, but it is just a little annoying depending on whether or not you put stuff in your back seat or your trunk. The next thing is the rear seats. They have these buttons here, which are fantastic. It's not, electronic, so it's nice and quick. You push the button, it'll get the seat right out of the way. It's super easy to get into the rear seat. The problem that I had once was I didn't put the seat back hard enough once this week, and then the seat made like a rattling noise. So I had to come back, and redo it, and then it was fine. And then I want to talk about the trunk a little bit more because it's awesome. Now, like I said, it is manual release for your third row, but as you can see, it's super easy, quick, and then you do have buttons to drop the second row. And then with all of this down, it was so simple to bring my wife's bike to the bike shop without even taking the tire off or anything. It fit perfectly well in here. I probably could fit another bike or two back here. Very big cargo space. And the last thing I'll talk about is just the gloss black in places that you don't really want gloss black. It's all in your center console, and like, this is a press car. It's got about 13,000 miles on it, and these cars live a pretty rough life. But you can see a bunch of scratching and smudging, and I just get the sense that it's gonna be like that almost immediately. So I just kind of wish that they had done a different material for your center console. So that's the best and the rest of the newly updated Kia Telluride. The question that we posed at the beginning of the video is this still the pinnacle? Is this still the best three-row family SUV that you can get? And it's hard to definitively say one way or another, yes or no. The Palisade will bring a couple more features and technology, but it's uglier. And then the Honda Pilot drives better than this thing, but it's worse everywhere else. So this Kia Telluride is still, without a doubt, a very comprehensive, very practical, and a great bang for your buck if you're looking for a family three-row. So thanks to Kia for letting us have a go, and we'll see you in the next one.